All right, everybody, we're here with Super Bowl champion, New England Patriot leader, more importantly, the leader of the defensive pack, Deatrich Wise Jr. Deatrich, how are you, buddy? Thanks for coming.
I'm doing well. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to get your perspective on a lot of these things. So I appreciate your time. Let's jump into it.
All right.
Just first question I really have is, when I ask athletes this, there's so many different answers to this. So I just love to hear perspectives from different athletes. But What do you contribute your high level of performance to?
I would say I contribute my high level of performance, honestly, to my mindset on why I do what I do. And that is honestly to be great at whatever I do. So since I've been growing up, my father always has trained us from AAU, track and field, from wrestling to football. And he always told us, whatever we do in life, just make sure that you're good at it. So that's one thing that I always wanted to do, was be good at what I do. So, and then not only be good at it, but be consistent. And being consistent, being great isn't a sometimes thing. It's an all-time thing. So that's something that I always do. So my mindset is just whatever I'm doing, be the best at it and do it every day.
That's awesome. I think so many athletes don't understand the consistency piece, and they think it's like, I got to be high level all the time, but really it's slow and steady and consistent wins the race.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Dad did a good job there. So obviously your dad put you in some situations at a young age, and it kind of helped you become the leader that you are, and it kind of helped you build who you are, especially resilience-wise. You mentioned the mental piece of things. What's resilience mean for you, and how did you feel like you developed it and are developing it?
Resilience for me just means the ability to bounce back to where you were, or greater than where you were before. And that's what it means to me. And what was your second question again?
Just are you still developing it? Like, how are you building off of it?
So each year, since I was in high school, I always reflected on what I did good and what I didn't do well. And there's some seasons are better than others, as we all know. Some games are better than others, some days better than others. But kind of fall back to kind of what I said before, having that championship mindset and knowing why I play, it makes it easier for me to bounce back, because I realize that losses and bad days or failures aren't really that. They're lessons. And if you can learn from the days that aren't so great on what you messed up on or what you could improve on, then just take what you did yesterday and then build from it the day before. So that kind of helps me become resilient. Now there's some days where it's just kind of like, wow, like that happened to me. And it takes me a minute to kind of like get back. But I always use a lot of things as fuel, or I kind of just, or like if all this fails, I kind of just shrug it off. Like sometimes things aren't as bad as it perceives to be in your head, Like, oh, like I saw that, but like honestly, like, yeah, okay, all right. Like I heard this one clip. There was this dude on Instagram. He was training quarterbacks, and the girl was throwing the ball and she missed a pass. He was like, "It's okay. Like, you ever seen Tom Brady miss a pass?" And she was like, "Yeah." All right, good. Like that means things happen. It's okay. Move forward. So that's kind of like what I kind of took from that, and how I apply that to my life. Like things happen, you just gotta move forward, learn from it, but keep moving forward. Have a short-term memory when it comes to certain things.
Awesome. Yeah, it gets you to the next level for sure when you start to realize that you're learning every time you do things. If you stop learning, then you're just going to stay where you're at. So that's exactly amazing. That's really cool. When you're starting to do these things, when you're starting your day, and when you're starting your day or even the game, do you have any kind of routines, like a pre-day routine, a pre-game routine? Do you have anything that helps get your mind in that right format so you can be resilient?
Yeah, most definitely. I tend to pre-game. I have a ritual where, not a ritual, just a routine where I kind of just wake up in the morning. First of all, I go to sleep, I want to say around like 8:30, 9 o'clock, so I can at least reach close to 10 hours. That's what I try to aim for, 10 hours of sleep. But then after that, I'm up, I do a little meditation, have affirmations, have a nice big breakfast. I like pancakes, so if it's pancakes, I'm eating it with a nice veggies on the side, some hash browns, a nice shake, smoothie, whatever the case is. But then I was like a big breakfast regardless. And then I kind of get my mind ready. I kind of just listen to my music, I stretch, and pretty much what I do for game day is kind of what I do every day. I meditate, I get my mind ready, say my affirmations, and then I start warming up my body for the day, whether it's working out, whether it's stretching, warming up. And by the time I'm at the place of performance, whether it's practice or the game, I'm primed and ready to go. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And I would assume it's comfortable for you. So if there's a day that you don't do that, you probably feel a little bit out of sorts and a little bit out of whack.
yeah, I feel like I'm chasing the day, or I feel like I'm rushing. You know, I feel like I'm trying to like, what's next? What's next? Instead of kind of like floating through the day, or not so much floating, but kind of like going with the day. You know.
Yep, absolutely. That's awesome. So let's transition to in the game. So obviously, with football, and being a defensive player, there's times when you're not on the field. There's times when you're kind of sitting or standing around on the sidelines a lot waiting to get into the game. So, when I work with football players, we talk about being ready for every down. So I call it the red zone. So ready every down. How do you get ready for situations like that where you have a little bit of time off, but then you got to jump right back into it? How do you prepare yourself for that?
So you asked me how do I prepare myself? How do I stay in tune, stay focused on the game? And for me, it's when I'm on the sidelines, I'm locked into what they're saying on the sidelines. But then if there's no communication on the sidelines, I'm locked into the game. And sometimes I have words that I say, like triggered words I may say, or phrases I may say, or just things I may say. I may say, but I found sometimes it's best for me just to stay mentally calm, but prepared, to where like I'm not like overthinking on the sideline. I'm not like saying like things over and over again, like trigger words. Because sometimes I can overdo it and it becomes harmful than helpful, So
Yep.
like I'll say what I need to say, but for the most part, as long as I'm relaxed, all right, I'm breathing, I'm good, my mind's calm, it's quiet, and I'm focused on. I'm staying attentive to the game going on now. And once they say defense, my helmet's on and ready, and I'm ready to go. So
Yeah. Do you find yourself like, so obviously this is big self-talk for you. Do you find yourself, do you have that one word that really sets in for you?
I have a few words. For me, it's cues. And so like it's a few cues. So if I feel like I am messing up, then I'll say these 3 words that will get me back on focus. And they're pretty much just along my fundamentals. So whatever I feel like my fundamentals are, I'll say my 3 words to keep me back and ready. Or if I feel like I am lacking in a certain area, whether it's like I need to be faster, more aggressive, physical, I'll just say those things just to fire it off. I do some body taps, some head taps, get myself going, and then I'm ready to go.
Awesome. I teach a lot of athletes, and for me, volleyball is kind of my main sport. And we talk about ABCs. We talk about just 3 things you say to yourself that keeps you in the moment, and you're not thinking about the other 22 things going around. And that's like a perfect example of what you just said. That's really cool. It's funny. I don't know who I heard this from. This is a while ago, but I heard somebody say, as an athlete, you want to be like you're tuning into a TV. So you're changing from channel 4, which is listening to the coach, to channel 5, which is like listening to your teammates, to channel 6, focusing on the game. And you're constantly turning the channels of your mind to be in the right time, right there. So I thought that was pretty cool analogy of things, and exactly what you just said. So that's really helpful for that. Sure. How about after a mistake? What do you do?
That is something that I've been working on. After mistakes, I used to be real down on myself or be hard on myself, but I realized if I'm not going to say what I say to myself to other teammates, then why am I saying it to myself? You know,
Yeah.
like we always guard things, like we keep our phone guarded, we keep our home guarded, but sometimes we keep our brain guarded from other people's words, but we allow our words to come in, you know, and say whatever they want to say. And I found that to be more detrimental than was motivating. So if I made a mistake, I kind of went back to my resiliency mindset. All right, next play. Just next play. Like, don't allow that play to roll into the next play, and then the next play, and the next play. It's almost like volleyball when you get an error. Okay, it's an error. You got 3 matches. You know what I'm saying? To have a great game, you got 25 points or 15 points, whatever the situation is. But if you allow one error to go to another error, now you're going to have 2 errors at the back. And then there's a whole match that's full of errors. And now you're in your head, everybody staring at you. You're like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. So just kind of like, you got to just relax. You know, you got to just breathe and go back to your fundamentals. So that's how I do. I go back to my fundamentals and I say, all right, whatever I need to say to get my mind going. And that's kind of how I do. If there's a bad play, whatever.
Isn't it amazing? When I work with so many young athletes, what you just said is so on point, because what they'll say to me, like I'll give them a little exercise and I'll say, okay, write down the three worst things that you can say to yourself. Let's say this first thing is, I am awful at defense. I'm the worst defensive player here. I totally blew that play, right? And then I have them write my name in front of that and then read it to me and then say, Coach Craig, you are the worst defensive player here. You blew that. You're losing the game for us. And I'm like, would you ever say that to somebody else? Probably not, right? So why are you saying it to yourself? So
Exactly.
That's hugely on point. So that's why you're the self-talk. That's why you're so successful, because you're aware of what you're saying to yourself, and that's why you're doing great things on the field. So that's awesome. That's a great example. So let's transition a little bit to more about who you are and who you want people to be. So what character obviously is a big thing for me. I'm a big believer that character really makes who you are, and it carries you through life. What's your definition of character, and how do you build on it? How do you like to keep developing your character?
For me, character is very important, because not only is character what you do when people are watching, but it's mostly what you do when people aren't watching. And I feel like character, I feel like your habits create your character in a sense. I know that's kind of, I'm gonna get to it, but just to keep it short, that's what I feel like character is. What you do every day when people are watching and aren't watching, then that's who you are as a person in a sense. Because you already know, most people in the world have like 3 masks. The mask that they show to their family and friends, mask that they show at work, and then their true self. You know what I'm saying? Their true face. I put it that way, 3 faces. And that's kind of what I think character is, just kind of like who you are when no one's watching, but most importantly, like who you are every day. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is.
Values play a big part of it.
Right? Yes, so, definitely.
So it's made me think. So I was fortunate to meet your dad and your mom, who are phenomenal people. Your dad, one of the most successful coaches in Texas football high school history. Your mom is just an amazing woman who's growing 3 big boys around her. What values did they instill in you?
Well, my father, man, he's a phenomenal person. He, like I said, he played in the league. He coached all different levels: college, high school, arena league, professional. The values, he taught a lot. I'm trying to figure out a few values that he taught. I would say a few values that he taught to me was, one, to always, this is what his father told him, which told me, is to always have a heart. It's a lot of things that go on into this world, but to be able to be compassionate towards others is very important. Definitely as a leader, definitely as a person. There's four of us. I have one older than me, and then it's two younger brothers.
Oh, I forgot your older brother too.
Yeah, so we kind of like, work with each other. But I feel like as a leader that I've grown into, I realized being able to be compassionate and understanding was one of my strongest leadership capabilities, along with hard work and discipline, honestly.
Yeah.
Other values, my mom, she was in the military. So she was in the military for over 20 years, and she's an Army nurse and nurse manager. So she knows how to do a lot of great things. And one thing I learned from her, honestly, besides, putting God first in everything that you do, I would say, it's I don't know, it's a lot. I would say my positive thinking, my optimism.
Awesome.
That's what she brought to the table. She being a nurse, you see a lot. Being an Army nurse, you see a whole heck of a lot. So when things are going on, when everybody's in the midst of chaos, learn how to remain calm and remain positive. Because sometimes just that little small light of positivity can change a whole lot of people. So those two things, my parents, I learned a lot.
Yeah. How amazing, and how much are things so much better when you can just take that little thing, turn it a little bit, and just be positive. It makes such a difference. It's interesting.
A lot, yeah.
It's unbelievable. So and I think it's a choice. It's a choice to be positive, right? And to get young athletes to understand, like, you have a choice in how you react to this, and it's going to help your outcome so much better if you're just more positive with things. So yeah, she's a wise woman. No play on words with the last name. Sorry. You mentioned compassion and understanding, which is really interesting to me, because I like to teach compassion, understanding, and empathy. So Q leadership. Mm-hmm. I really think that's a cornerstone for developing relationships and developing great leaders. What's your definition of a great leader, and how do you feel like you can build leadership?
There's a lot of great leaders in this world, and sometimes people tend to look at leaders and be like, I need to be just like that, or I need to be this, or I need to be that. And I feel like one of the best things a leader should be is authentic. They should always be themselves. That's the one thing that you should be, because there's a lot of different ways to lead. You have the vocal leaders like the Ray Lewises, guys who can put great words together and you can feel it. But you also have other leaders who may not be as vocal, but they're very compassionate, or they lead by example. So they do that. And then, so there's a lot of different variations from A to Z. And I would say just the one thing I tell to all the leaders or people who think that they're leaders is just be you. Be you every day.
Yeah.
Bring your best foot forward and be you. And eventually, when you start gaining success and doing what you do, people would naturally start asking you questions. People would naturally start drawing to you. It's because of who you are. You're not trying to be anybody else. You're not trying to be extra. When there's a spot for leadership and you so happen to step up, then people will be like, oh wow, that person, he or she does it every single day. They always do it. So that's something that's very, in my opinion, very important. The authenticity of the athlete or the person.
Absolutely. And I think for me, like, hearing you say that, the first thing that comes to mind is with that authenticity is trust. So if you're being your real self and your true self, I'm going to trust you more. And that in the field, exactly. How much trust do you need with teammates on the field, especially the sport that you play, right? It's amazingly a challenging thing.
Trust is very important.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So two last questions for you. My my second to last one is transitioning from season to off season. A lot of people have, they struggle, a lot of young athletes struggle with motivation, commitment, like really trying to get ready for the next year. What do you have that, what do you feel like keeps you motivated for the next year? How do you stay committed? Is there things that you think about or do, or?
It's my goals. I feel like every athlete, first of all, it's the goals. I'll put it away. Goals. Second, I'm intrinsically motivated. That's how I say motivated. So I know goals are kind of external, but I have intrinsic motivation that, like, which intrinsic is, people who don't know, is internal. Self motivation. I want to do this because I want to be this, that, or the other. Like, I have things that I want to accomplish, and then the external portion of it is I have things that I want to achieve, want to get. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of it. And then I guess to put everything in one nutshell, which keeps me motivated from off season to off season, is my state of mind. There's a poem that my dad always told me. It's like, it's all in the state of mind. If you think you're big, your deeds will grow. If you think you're small, you'll fall behind. If you think that you can and you will, it's all in the state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You got to think high to rise. You got to be sure of yourself before you ever win a prize. Life battles don't always go to the strongest or fastest man, but sooner or later, the man who wins is the fella who thinks he can. That's just a poem, but it goes for everybody. He, she, girl, boy, it don't matter. Whatever you think you are, you become. So that's kind of what keeps me motivated, keeps me going. I have a high self-esteem about who I am as a person. As long as I can continue to keep that stuff about who I am higher, then that helps me kind of like motivate me throughout the off season. So good season, bad season, good last game, bad last game, it don't matter. It always turn the page. I find out what I need to improve on. I work on those improvements because I always want to get better from season to season. That's
awesome. Thanks for sharing that poem. That hits home huge. You know, and I think what a lot of young athletes don't understand it's we want you to dream, right? So that part of that is dreaming what you want to become. And then if you have that dream in mind, you start setting goals, you start doing things that are moving you in the direction of what you're trying to accomplish. And that builds that momentum, that builds the commitment. That poem was awesome. You memorized the whole thing. How long have you done that for?
Since I was a kid.
That was awesome. So last question. Now, obviously, like, your dad has been a big influence as a coach. Tell me something another coach maybe that has told you that has stuck with you.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because I thought of all the good things I heard and all the bad things I heard. I don't know. A few coaches have told me that you can only go as far as what you see. They kind of said it in many different ways. So like if you're able to see yourself in a certain light, position, stuff like that, which also another coach kind of hinted on that, but he was talking about visualization. If you're able to visualize yourself where you want to be, then you can achieve it. And I've had other coaches, not so great, say things a little bit negative to me, but it was kind of like motivation, you know. But I think the best thing I've heard was that you need to be able to see yourself where you want to become. And that's what I do every day.
That's awesome. Awesome, man. Well, listen, I mean, all great stuff. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
There's so much tidbits of gold in there, nuggets of gold, that it's hugely helpful for student athletes that, especially this time, really kind of struggling with coming out of COVID and really trying to get back to a routine in sports and enjoying what they're doing seems to be harder and harder these days. So all this is really helpful. So Bigfoot himself, Deatrich Wise Jr., I really appreciate your time.
I forgot.
It keeps flashes up on the screen all the time. Bigfoot.
I forgot I had that up there.
All right, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
All right, now have a good one. Thanks, Coach.